This is the free motion quilting tutorial for a complex feather. This design is being sponsored by the Ultimate Quilting Kit. This kit comes with a Supreme Slider, Machine Agrees quilting gloves, and Little Genie magic bobbin washers. 3 awesome tools that make free motion quilting on a domestic machine much easier. Find this Ultimate Quilting Kit at daystyledesigns.com. Now let's get started learning how to stitch complex feather. The first step of this design is to create your vine, which is basically just a wiggly line. I am taking this diagonally across my quilting space, but you could easily stitch this all over the surface of your quilt. You could stitch this in a single line across the border of your quilt. Really, you can take your vine anywhere. It's kind of the base of this feathering design. So the next step is to start your feathers. And the first one's kind of hard to see what I'm doing. So the really important thing with this is to start out correctly. And most of that comes in with your starting feather shape. So just concentrate on creating a nice teardrop shape for your first feather. Then you're going to create a circle on the tip of it. Go inside of that circle with a closed spiral. And then you're going to stitch some back and forth lines. These are kind of half moon shapes or arch shapes, and fill in the tail of the feather with even more texture. So again, start with a circle. You're going to fill that circle with a spiral, and it's probably a little easier to see now so you can really see what I'm doing. And just simply, you're kind of echoing that circular shape, just stitching some back and forth lines all the way back to that vein line. The feather is so much easier to create because you're kind of estimating space for that circle on the tip. That is butterfly feathers, just simply a feather with a circle on the tip. But I decided to throw in spirals and these arch shapes because it adds so much to the design and really makes the feathers stand out beautifully on the surface of your quilt. You could take this in, you don't necessarily have to stitch the spiral, you don't necessarily have to stitch the arch shapes down the length of the feather. You can kind of play with it and see where you want to take it. You could stitch even heart shapes on the end of the feather. It's really kind of fun just to see all the different variations you can get when you just simply focus on playing with this design, playing with the shapes, and seeing what you get out of it. It is time consuming. You can see, we're in 2 minutes on this video and I've only really stitched 5 feathers. So it is time consuming. Make sure to place this somewhere where you want a lot of attention. You want the feathers to show off and you want to spend the time to make them look good. If you get a little annoyed with them taking so much time, maybe only fill every other one or every 3 feathers and see how that works. It's definitely something to keep in mind how time consuming it is, because if you use this design to cover the entire surface of your quilt, well, it would take a long time to finish the whole quilt, wouldn't it? So it's something to keep in mind whenever you choose this design on the surface to quilt your quilt with. Feathers are kind of one of those benchmarks of quilting. Many people want to quilt feathers, and it's very important to produce a beautiful feather, at least in the quilting world. So I think that this is actually a lot easier because you're kind of swirling up and around to create that circle. Filling it with the spiral, of course, is entirely up to you. I just think it adds a really nice bit of texture to this area that's usually left kind of open and blank. But getting that nice feather shape can be a challenge for many quilters, and it's something to kind of work on. I found the most important thing is just remembering that everyone stitches feathers differently. While I'm stitching kind of from the base to the top in this video, a lot of times I will quilt from the top down. Everybody's different, and it's something to keep in mind whenever you're stitching them. Now, of course, I've sped up my video here because I really wanted you to see more of this design and how it feels and how it moves, but I didn't really have time to show all of it. So I've doubled the speed, and of course I really wish I could quilt this fast. That would be really nice. And you can see how beautiful beautiful this texture is. It makes every single feather stand out gorgeous on the surface because the thread play, it's the thread that's building up that allows each feather to show off. And it's those back and forth echoes going all the way back down to the vine line that really do all of the work, all of the major showing off in this stitch. So it's something to try, it's something to play with and see how you like stitching this complex feather. And here's what it looks like whenever you finish it. For over 250 videos on free motion quilting, plus many tools and quilting kits to make this easier on a domestic sewing machine, go to daystyledesigns.com or freemotionquilt.com.